Welcome back to another episode of Life in Prison. As always, my name is Zach. I did 5 years of my life in maximum security prison. Since getting out, I've got my medical degree, and now I try to help others who can't help themselves. I do video chats with individuals that are still locked up in prison for murder, for drug charges, for stealing, robbery, all sorts of things, just to give you an idea of what it's actually like to live life in prison. You can go down this path, you can go down that path. If you want to gangbang, it's completely up to you. But this is exactly where it's going to get you. A 7x12 with another man. What do you choose? So, if you haven't already done it, go ahead and give me a chance. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell notification button so you're first informed when I upload. So, today, what we're talking about is a dope man in prison. So, as I've talked about in other videos, the price of drugs. Drugs is a very, very high commodity in jail, lockup, prison, wherever you may go, right? Money talks, right? So regardless if it's a CO that you're having bring in stuff, or if you're getting stuff shipped in through the mail, thrown over the wall, however it may be, regardless, once it's inside, the prices go as following. So first we'll just start off with cigarettes. Nice entry-level item going into jail and prison. So in most jails and prisons, you call a whole cigarette a Cadillac, a full boy, right? Those can go from between $10 a piece to $20 a piece and onwards and up depending on where you're at and how readily available that you can get this stuff. But on average, it's $10 to $20 for a full cigarette. What you would do is you'd break a full cigarette down and break it into 3 roll-ups. Now you have something that you can break down pretty much. If you're trying to make money off of it or if you're trying to save it, most people that have packs of cigarettes don't smoke the full cigarettes, honestly, because, I mean, I have in the past, but it was because, you know, it was pretty much we had to smoke it whole or that was it. That we had no other way, right? But it lasts longer because if you smoke a cigarette, you're gonna get dizzy, you're gonna get lightheaded, the nicotine hits you hard, especially if you're in lockup. Another thing I've talked about before in previous other videos, a lot of dudes will, unfortunately, they'll get the re-rub. So these COs will chew dip, right? Chew snuff and stuff. Well, they have to spit it somewhere. Well, these inmates will rummage through the trash cans, find the cans or the bottles that they spit the stuff in, take it back to their cell, dry it out, and then roll it up like a cigarette. It's called a re-rub or a re-roll. You know what I mean? Yes, you're smoking other people's spit, but people need nicotine and they will do anything to get it. We'll go ahead with the old Mary Jane. With marijuana, I've seen it. I've seen pounds of it in prison, but it was very maximum security. I was only in maximum security prison, and it stinks, you know, and hiding it in mass quantities in prison and jail, it's very, very hard, you know what I'm saying? A stick, a little roll-up, a pin roll-up will go for $10 to $20 easily all day on the yard, and it's always some good weed. I've never seen some dirt weed in prison. Whenever you're in prison, if you're the dope man in prison, right, if you're the one hitting, sometimes a lot of the guys tell on themselves because most dudes want to be known as the man, right? You know what I'm saying? Everyone wants to be that guy. That's how you get hit and get sent to the hole. And then the whole operation is shut down. So the smart thing to do, as I did, and as, you know, a couple other people in my unit, right? What you do is you would have someone else, right, come to an agreement. You go up to them and be like, look, let's just say you've got an ounce of weed, right? You want to get rid of it, but you don't want people to know that you're the guy. So you go to the individual and be like, look, I'll give you X amount if you pretend like you that dude, right? Everyone comes to you, you know what I'm saying? Here's the information to have the money sent to. I'll confirm, but that way if it gets hit, right? That way if someone tells on dude, the operation is still going because the original person never got hit. Then again, you got to make sure that people don't fucking talk because they're scared they might get more time. Yes, whenever you're in prison, if you catch an outside charge, a street charge, you're gonna get more time added to your sentence. That's why a lot of people end up going into prison with a 1 to 10 or 1 to 5, end up coming out with a 3 to 15 because they beat somebody up, they assaulted somebody, or they end up stabbing somebody. Number one thing is don't let people know that you're the man. And the reason being is because even if you're slick, I've seen plenty of times you got dudes that's hitting, right? They're hitting on the pack. They might be getting stuff from the CO, whatever it may be. Their homeboy that they're always with, he goes bragging around to everybody else, yeah, my man's hitting, I get this shit for free. I don't know how many times I've seen people go to the hole because of that. I would say K2 in the past 10 years has been that and Suboxone have been the #1 main hitting items that have been getting into prison, and reason being is because it's so small, you can't really detect it. So what K2 is, or spice, right? What they do is they get the spice off the streets and they break it down in acetone, spray it on paper or whatever it may be. And now you can smoke it. So it's like a weed high, but some people really bug out. Unfortunately, a lot of people have lost their lives because of the K2. It's chemicals. Pretty much it's straight chemicals that you're smoking. We don't know what they are. That's why they can't show up on drug tests, because we don't know the chemical compound to look for. That would have to go out to an outside specialized lab to do, and a lot of times these prisons are not going to pay for something like that. But unfortunately, people do smoke this spice stuff, this K2, and it really trips them. So the price on the spice and K2, as I was talking about in other videos, is this is a prison ID size card, okay? This is the same size as a driver's license, a photo ID, okay? If you were to take this and put it on a piece of paper, trace the outlines of it, cut it off, a piece of paper this size would go for $50 to hundreds of dollars for K2. So you got to think, when people are getting sheets sent in, like legal documents where they have hundreds and hundreds of documents, right? But every single sheet is sprayed with this stuff. You do the math. Next, let's talk about Suboxone. So Suboxone is kind of like methadone. It's an opioid blocker, but if you don't have any opioids in your system, it'll give you the same type of high, as a pill would, pretty much an opioid would. They range from, on the streets, they go for $5, $10, $15, $20, right? With the Suboxone, as I've said in other videos, I've broke down how people would get it sent in, either in their envelopes in the little sticky licky part, or on cards, regardless of how you got it in, between a CO, in the mail, in magazines, however you get it in. Right now, back in the day, back when I was in prison, 2011 going to 2016, a whole Suboxone was going for $200 in prison. You could break it down and obviously make it a little bit more. And that, to me, that was expensive as hell, because in the regional jail, they were going for $50 to $75 for a whole one, right? Wasn't too crazy. But once you get to prison, obviously the price jumps up because it's hard to get things in and out. Now, my homeboy, my dog Cody, he's in Hazleton right now. So he just told me, because he's been locked up a lot recently than I have, that the Suboxones are going for $700 to $1,000 now. Can you imagine? They're $5 to $10 out here on the streets, and they're going for $1,000 in there, like heroin, In prison, it's hard to sell stuff like that, because a lot of people, you want to be careful, especially so they don't overdose. A very, very small line will go for $50 to $100, a very, very, very small line. As if you were to go out here on the streets and get a gram, it might cost you, depends where you go. If you go to Baltimore, you can get it for $60 a gram. But if you're more or less up here, it's going to cost you $150, $200 more. So in there, the same amount of $20 as you get out here is probably the equivalent to about $200 in there. As is with Coke, the prices on that, they're astronomical, People can, for small lines, people charge hundreds of dollars, and you gotta think about it, if you've been in prison for years and years, right? You spend $100 on a line. Think about it, out here, you do one line of Coke, you normally do more because it's, exactly, that's why a lot of people end up That's why a lot of people end up, getting robbed, getting killed, because they get fiended out on this stuff, as is with crack and meth. The price on that stuff is pretty much, if you were to buy a gram, you'd probably be spending over $1,000 for a gram of any of this stuff. That's how expensive the stuff is. With pills, right? So there were some cancer patients in the prison that would either get Oxycontin or oxycodone, 30 milligrams, 120 of the oxys, they'd get 80s. Now, stuff like that, the prices of that stuff out here is, $150, $200 for the pill. And there, if you were to break it down into lines, you can make a lot more off lines. But most people sell whole just to get rid of them. And those dudes were pretty much set, because they get multiple medications a day, and, they would save a couple and then sell a couple, and they wouldn't have to have their family send in food, because they were, hustling their pills. There's a hustle in everything. What's another one that was in there? Seroquel. Seroquel, people would sell those things for, $5 a piece, if that. A lot of these guys would call it dummy dope, Neurontin. People would get those Remron. Remron was one of those pills that if you took it, snorted, whatever, you were out. Like, a lot of dudes in prison would literally sleep their time away, right? They know exactly what to say, what to do whenever they went to the doctor in the prison, right? That way they would get put on these specific medications. They would literally sleep their time away. Remeron was one of those ones that if you took it, you was knocked out. If you fought it, you'd be fucked up, but most of the time you couldn't fight it, so people literally just sleep their time away. Buspar, all right. Buspar was another one. It went for, depending on who it was, but normally went for about 50 cents to maybe $3 most. It's kind of like clonazepam, right? Not as strong as a Xanax, but it's for like anxiety, right? Drunk-ish, make them feel blue. So a lot of people will be doing this stuff. If you haven't already done it, go ahead and check out Stone Collective Supply Company over on Instagram, along with stonecollectivesupply.com. My man Caleb, once again, booming with the drops. This is the last drop for Halloween. Hope everyone had a wonderful Halloween, but these are the last items from the Halloween drop. So if you haven't went and got it, go ahead, check them out and get them before they're gone, because they will never be back again. Caleb, I fucking love you, dude. Keep booming what you're doing. Stay with that heat. Stay with that fire. Keep bringing out the merch, man. If you haven't already done it, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification button so you'll be first informed when I upload. This was just a short video on pretty much selling dope in prison. What's the price? Is it worth it? No. There's money to be made, but at the end of the day, we all want to go home and stay home with our families. So, as always, I send my utmost love, loyalty, respect. Keep y'all heads up, stay positive. Keep coming back for more, because there's more bangers to come, my boy. Stay up.